Judy from P4P, and I was going to cut out and make some walk the plank PJ bottoms for my son, and I thought I would do a couple quick videos on some of the questions we get asked a lot. One of the questions is, why is this so big? Why is this piece so big? There's only 2 pieces in this entire pattern. So this is your front and back of your one leg, and then so you'll cut 2 of these. That will make your entire left piece and right piece. Your waistband is really high too because there's no separate waistband piece. This gets folded down to become your waistband. So it's really quick and easy because it is only 2 pieces. I made this pattern to be as quick and easy as possible because I really don't enjoy making pajamas. So I made them very, very quick. Another thing that's asked all the time is, what are these little triangles on the side? So these help you hem nicely. You don't have them on the bottom because it's pretty straight on the bottom. So when you fold up your hem, it's the same length. But on the 2 short lengths, the knee length and the shorter length, when you fold it up that 1 inch, this just means it matches where it folds up perfectly. If you cut these off, and you cut a knee length, when you fold your hem up, your edge of your fabric is going to be smaller than where you're actually attaching it to. So you don't want to cut these off. If you're using the pant length like I'm going to do, all I do is fold them in like this. That way, if I want to use a shorts length later on, I have them and I can just unfold them and cut them out. Last, what I'm going to talk about before I actually get my fabric is these little triangles right here. These just mark the front and the back. So 1 triangle is the front and 2 is the back. It just helps if you want to stick a tag in there or anything like that. Okay, I am going to be grabbing some fabric. These can be made in a woven fabric. I get asked all the time, can I make them in knit or fleece? Fleece is fine. The only thing about fleece is when you fold the waistband down and you stitch on it, it's going to be pretty thick. Almost any time you sew with fleece, you're ending up with pretty thick seams. But when you sew the elastic waistband on this, you're sewing through 2 layers of your fabric plus elastic. So that gets pretty thick with fleece. You can do it in knit if you would like to do it in knit. The only thing I'd say about that is this is a really generous sized pattern. What does that mean? I put a lot of ease in this pattern. Again, I do not enjoy making pajama pants, so I put a lot of growing ease in the kids. And then the adult, I really like loose pajama pants if they're woven. I like to be able to sit crisscross applesauce and curl up when I'm sleeping, and I like a lot of ease to do that without the fabric pulling at all. So if you're doing it in knit, you don't need quite as much ease. You can easily make them more narrow or size down for an adult. The kids, you're not going to want to size down because you don't want them to be too short, but you can make them less narrow. I'm making a size 10 here. Believe it or not, my little guy is that big. You cannot fit the larger size youth or the adult on woven fabric that is folded in half. Most woven fabrics come in about 44-inch widths. Some of them as small as 42 sometimes. To 45 inches wide is about the average, 44 to 45. And it's wider than that because there's no side seam. So you have to open your fabric all the way out. If you're doing a larger size youth pattern or an adult pattern. And you're going to cut 2 mirror images, which means one with the pattern facing up, and then I'm going to flip it over and cut one with my pattern facing down. What I usually like to do to make sure that I am getting 2 mirror images is once I cut the first piece, I usually use my fabric piece as my pattern piece then. That way I can see that it's either right sides together or wrong sides together, it does not matter. But I can tell that they're mirror images and I'm not cutting 2 right legs, 2 left legs. If I use my pattern piece, sometimes I forget which way I cut it the first time and accidentally cut 2 of the exact same leg. I'm just cutting around my pattern piece. I'm using a rotary. You can also use scissors. You want to make sure your pattern is on grain, or else they're going to hang funny and twist on the legs. So even though my pattern goes in right here, I can't make that fit to the grain line. You want this to fit on your grain line. So that big grain line should be exactly parallel to your selvage. If you're using a woven fabric like me, you can cut it cross grain with no problem. So you can cut it perpendicular to the grain line or parallel, but you don't want to cut it on bias. You don't want it twisting on you. Okay, so this is going to be one leg. As you see, we're going to fold it up and sew it right here, and that will be the back and the front. And so I just need one more leg. This is not a directional fabric. They're tossed. So I can flip my piece vertically or horizontally, whichever fits better. If you have fabric that is directional, you're going to need to buy more, because almost all of these will fit with the 2 ankles side by side. And if you cannot flip your piece to where the 2 ankles are side by side, you usually need more fabric. And see, I just like to use my fabric because I can really easily tell that I'm cutting a mirror image. I won't ever forget this way. And sometimes when I use the paper and I try to remember face up, face down, I can sometimes forget. When I cut out my notches, I always cut them out like mountains instead of cutting them in. You can cut them in and just make sure you're not cutting them bigger than your seam allowance. But I like to cut mine pretty big since I use a rotary cutter, and I just always go out. being so tall. Alright, there you go. The last thing you'll need